Hello and welcome to another section in further maths. Today we'll be talking about surds. But before we proceed, I would like us to do a quick review of our previous lesson. Okay, welcome back. Now, in our last lesson we did a lot about surds. So today I would like us to continue with multiplication of surds. And when you talk about multiplication of surds, let's call this our example 1. We have root 45 times root 28. If you want to multiply this surd, now you know that root 45 is the same thing as root 9 times 5 times, and root 28 you know is the same thing as 4 times 7. So this is now 3 root 5 times 2 root 7, because this is the same thing as root 9 times root 5 times root 4 times root 7. 9 is 3, root 5 times 4 is 2 root 7. So with this, in multiplication of surd, we do 3 times 2 is 6, 5 times 7 root 35. It's so straight and forward. But before we continue with this, let us do something on rationalization of surd, so that it will help us when we want to do subsequent multiplications of surd. If you talk about rationalization of surd, now rationalization talks about adding the conjugate or multiplying by the conjugate. For example, if I say 4 2 minus 3 root 6, I told us the other time that the conjugate of this is 4 root 2. You change the sign in the middle, plus 3 root 6. That's all about the conjugate. So if I have 2 root 11 minus 3 root 5, the conjugate will now be equal to 2 root 11 plus 3 root 5. I'm just giving you hints on conjugate. Now when you want to rationalize surd, you multiply by the conjugate. Example: rationalize the surd below. Now this is a surd. If you want to rationalize this, just multiply both sides by the conjugate of this, and that's all. You're done with your rationalization of surd. So it becomes 3 over root 3 plus root 2. Remember, the conjugate is times root 3 minus root 2 all over root 3 minus root 2. This is a conjugate. Root 3. Why we are using root 3 minus root 2? So that if this cancels this, you go back to our surd, root 2 over this. Now let's multiply it. We have 3 root 3 minus 3 root 2, just 3 times 3 root 3 and 3 times root 2 all over. Now let's deal with this. 3 times root 3 is root 9. 3 times this is minus root 6. 2 times root 2 times root 3 is plus root 6. Then root 2 times root 2 minus root 2 will be minus root 4. So our answer goes this way: 3 root 3 minus 3 root 2 all over root 9 is 3, minus 6 plus 6 is 0. We now have minus root 4 is 2. So our answer is now 3 root 3 minus 3 root 2 all over 1, which is the same thing as 3 root 3 minus 3 root 2, because any number divided by 1 is the same thing, but 3 is common between them, so we express this as 3 root 3 minus root 2. So this is our value for the above given surd. If you rationalize this, now if you rationalize this, you get the same value for our surd. Now, equality of surds. Equality of surds. Now find the square root. Find the square root of the surd 7 plus 2 root 10. You know, values of square root means something like this. That's the square root of a number. So if we say the square root of this, let's say for this 7, we say let the square root, let the square root be equal to root m plus root n, since we have this and this. So let this be the value of the square root, and if this is the square root, so that's to say 7 plus 2 root 10 will be equal to root m plus root n all square. Now if the square root of x, if the square root of x is 4, so x will be equal to 4 square, and also the square root of this is this, so this will be equal to this square. So if the square root of x is equal to 4, so x will be 4 square. The same thing applies here. If the square root of this is equal to this, so this will be this one square. So with this, let's expand what we have here. 7 plus 2 root 10 is equal to, if we expand this, we have m plus 2 root mn plus n. Now if you want to equate these two equations, you discover that we have 2 root 10 and we have 2 root mn. That is to tell you that there's 2 here, 2 goes with 2, square root goes with square root, so our value of mn is equal to 10, and m plus n, which is a constant term, is equal to 7. Now let's solve the equation. Let's take n to be equal to 7 minus m. So here, and we substitute it into this, we now have 7 minus m times m is equal to 10. So with this, we have m square minus 7m plus 10 is equal to 0. So what factor 3 and this, that is 2 and 5, minus 2 and minus 5. So now have m square minus 2m minus 5m plus 10 equals 0. So with this we have m in bracket m minus 2 minus 5, have m minus 2 equals 0. So our m is equal to 2 or 5. Now at this point, when m is 2, when m is equal to 2, the value of our n, remember we have mn to be equal to 10. So if m is 2, we now have 2n equal to 10. So our n is equal to 5 when n is 2, when m is 2. And when m is equal to 5, remember we have mn equal to 10. At this point, our m is 5. So 5n equal to 10. So our n is equal to 10 over 5, which is 2. So when m, so the value of our n is also equal to 2 or 5. So the square root of this is equal to root 2 plus root 5. Because we stated that this is a square root, let the square root be equal to this. So this is a square root, root 2 plus root 5. I say thank you for being part of this section. We'll be looking forward to having you in our next lesson. Just take the test that will be coming up shortly to enable you increase your confidence